Okay, it's a little after 11:30, so we can go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for hopping on. Some new faces from yesterday, some that were on yesterday as well. Wanted to just start out by, I guess, introduce myself. So I'm Andy Scott, for those of you that don't know me, the program manager for Medic. This is really just supposed to be kind of mostly a Q&A or opportunity for you guys to ask questions about the new data reporting system. So jump in kind of whenever you want. You can ask questions through the chat or raise your hand. Actually, I don't know if we have questions since it's a meeting, not a webinar. Or, you know, when there's kind of awkward silence, feel free to just speak up and ask your question verbally too. So I want to thank you all for the patience working through this entire process with us. I know that it took a little longer than we wanted to get this up and running, but we do feel pretty happy with what we've got, knowing that it's definitely phase one and there are more phases to come, but wanted to thank you guys for kind of bearing with us, and hopefully you're getting what you need, at least the minimum of what you need out of the system now, and hopefully we can help you answer any questions about what or whatever questions you have, I guess. So one quick thing before I dive into the questions. One, I wanted to just make sure everyone realized that today is actually the last day of our contract with Arbormetrics. So it's not totally clear when you'll all lose access, though probably today at some point. So if there's any last things that you want out of the Arbormetrics system, do that basically immediately. And that's kind of basically the introduction. I want to again stress, and I'll demonstrate again, that the folks at Arbor Research have definitely given us the imperative to let you guys know that they really would like everyone to change their password from the one that was auto-generated by the system itself. So kind of for data security reasons. So just again, to show how that works, if you click on your initials up at the top corner of the page, click on My Account Settings, and then right there in the middle, there's a change password. It's not big and it's not particularly obvious, but they would definitely like you to, so you put in the current password, the one that Arbor Research emailed you, then choose whatever your new password is. I think they've got relatively stringent rules on the characters and stuff. So I know at least my normal password I tried to use didn't work. So you might have to be a little more creative than normal with that. So before we go into the questions, any questions you guys have, we wanted to talk through some of the changes that are, so some of the actual calculations are different between what we saw in Arbormetrics and what you're going to see now in Arbor Research. They're relatively minor, and they are all for the better, or for improved accuracy. So I wanted to kind of stress that, but I'm going to share the document that we put together to kind of explain those differences, and Katie will kind of walk through from a more clinical aspect, explaining what those changes are, so what you might see the differences. So go ahead, Katie.
Hi, everyone. I think most people know me at this point. I'm the program evaluation specialist for Medic. Kind of one thing we want to point out here is these changes, they're going to affect all historic and current cases. So you might notice some differences if you have old reports, and a couple cases here and there, and this is why. That's why we're going to go through this. So to just kind of start out, your PE diagnostic yield and asthma safe discharge measures, there were no updates or changes to those two measures. So those should match pretty much perfectly between Arbor Research and Arbormetrics. Starting with chest pain safe discharge, though, we didn't have any updates to the measure, but we did notice when we were going through that there was a minor error in the way that Arbormetrics was calculating the heart score, and the Medic calculated heart score, which is what we use to determine whether patients are low or high risk. So it's a very, very small subset of cases. What was happening was there are some high risk features that are automatically 2 points. You guys might be familiar with those, the PCIs, I think TIAs and stroke, and then peripheral artery disease. Arbormetrics was not automatically giving those 2 points. So there were a few cases that were being calculated as a heart score of 3 that ultimately should have been calculated as a heart score of 4, which means that there were a couple cases here and there that were included in the measure that should have been excluded. Again, very small number of cases. Most people who have a history of a PCI or stroke also have enough other risk factors to get them to the 2 point range for that category, but just wanted to be totally transparent there. There is one other thing that we're currently working on that will be fixed hopefully within the next week or two. It's kind of a similar issue. There's a small subset of cases right now that are in the Arbor research code are being miscalculated as a heart score of 3 when they should be being calculated as a heart score of 4. Again, very, very small subset of cases you probably won't even notice, but you know, in the spirit of full transparency, we wanted to let you guys know that you might notice a change in the next week or two, and that's why. And again, so that it's 100% accurate, we want to make sure that only cases that should be falling into our low risk chest pain group are being sorted correctly. Moving on to chest x-ray utilization. So a couple changes here. So previously the way cases fell into our numerator for our chest x-ray measure is if they had a CPT code that was associated with a chest x-ray. That was the only thing that we looked at. If they had that CPT code and they fell into they were a complete case that had fallen into it for abstraction, they were in our numerator. We do ask the question of our abstractors, was there a chest x-ray done or ordered in the ED, with options of being yes, no, meaning there was one done but ordered by a different provider, like an inpatient provider, or chest x-ray not ordered. We asked you that question, but we didn't use it previously to help with our calculations. Going forward now, we are going to be taking that question into the code in consideration here. So if for some reason there is an error in the CPT codes coming across, so there's no CPT code, but the abstractor does answer yes to that question, they were able to find a chest x-ray that was ordered by the ED and done in the ED, they will now start falling into the numerator. Relatively small group of cases, but again, this is kind of a more comprehensive view and a more accurate way to measure this. Next, let's see, make sure I'm talking about the right thing here. So previously, the other thing we did, again, with the CPT codes, we didn't look at when they were ordered. So there were some cases where there was not a chest x-ray ordered by the ED, but the patient was admitted and then had an x-ray after they were admitted. And because we didn't restrict the time frame that the CPT codes were ordered, those were falling into our measure. So going forward, if the CPT code order time falls after the ED departure time, those will be excluded. So again, only now contributing the chest x-rays that were ordered and done in the ED. And then finally, this is kind of one that you might notice, this is going to primarily affect our sites with larger peds volumes. So there were some new CPT codes for chest x-rays introduced in early 2019. And we think that some sites started sending us those CPT codes prior to Arbor Metrics recognizing those. So there were cases that should have fallen into the numerator based on this new CPT code of 71046 that were not falling into the numerator because Arbor Metrics was not looking for that CPT code. So now you'll notice in Arbor Research, we are looking for all of the CPT codes, both again, currently and historically. So there might be a fair number of cases that are now falling into your numerator appropriately that were not previously. We don't know the scale of the impact yet. So this is something we're going to kind of keep a close eye on and circle back to if necessary, if we see a significant change in chest x-ray utilization. So we will keep an eye on that one. Finally, for all of our head injury measures, our abstractors are familiar with, we ask the question of, was the GCS recorded? And if so, what was the lowest recorded GCS for the visit? What we're also going to do going forward is look for a GCS that comes over in the vital signs. So again, a more comprehensive look, we're going to be, and then taking the minimum of both the abstracted score, and then if there's potentially a lower GCS that was recorded in the electronic data, we'll be taking the lowest of those two scores, again, just to make sure that we're capturing the most accurate GCS as possible to make sure that our measure is, again, as accurate as possible. So something to keep in mind there. And I think that that's mostly it. Questions at all there?
Yeah. Any questions about the measure changes? Okay, so I think next Allison was going to talk us through some of the questions that came up yesterday. Do you want to share that, Allison? Do you want me to bring that up and share it?
That's okay. My notes aren't exactly in an organized, presentable format, so I'll just talk through them. So just some questions from yesterday that we thought we would be preemptive and address now in case you guys had similar questions. Someone asked how often the data is refreshed. So it's very similar to Arbor Metrics. It will be refreshed on a nightly basis. So anything that you abstract today will be reflected in the report tomorrow. There has also been definitely a request for adding in the abstractor comments to our Tableau report, so we are working on that as well, and we hope it'll be pushed out with our next release in early summer. And as a heads up, we noticed something yesterday afternoon that the chest x-ray and asthma numbers, they don't seem to be displaying correctly for February and March. So basically it's pulling from all the historical data, but not the newly abstracted data for those measures. And we have a ticket into Arbor Research and they're working on fixing that. We're trying to get it fixed as quickly as possible. Let's see what else. So you'll notice we don't have everything in these Tableau reports compared to Arbor Metrics. We wanted to just start with the bare bones and get you guys what you ultimately need so that you know how you're being graded on those different P4P measures. So a few questions that came up yesterday related to that. We're going to discuss how to best display something similar to what was in Arbor Metrics, especially for the head injury cohort, where originally you could see all the cases that fell into the head injury cohort, how many were eligible, how many saw a CT scan. It was kind of like a nice bar graph that went down. Oh, Andy already has it pulled up. Look at that. So we're going to look to do something similar to that. We know that's valuable for you guys as well. There also aren't ranking charts in the Tableau platform yet. We ran into some security issues with that. So Tableau is really great about being able to drill down into specific data points, but we need to be very careful about the security so that we don't let site A drill down into site B's data. We just want you guys to be able to see like those overarching numbers to understand where you're performing relative to the rest of the collaborative. So we're working on that. It's just not available at the moment. We are also looking into adding either a MEDIC average or a MEDIC like median line to the trend graphs as well, so that instead of just being able to see the target, you could also see how the relative collaborative is performing. The next thing on my list here is someone had mentioned that they were having trouble copying and pasting MEDIC IDs from Tableau into MEDIC link. And there was also a question of, is there ever going to be a feature where I could just click on the MEDIC ID and have it open the case in MEDIC link? And we don't think that's quite possible because they're two entirely different platforms, but what we could see in the future is perhaps you click on that MEDIC ID in Tableau and it takes you into kind of like a playground of reports that has all of that abstracted data. So we don't think it will eventually link to MEDIC link and open that new screen, but you should be able to see all of that data eventually. Let's see. So there is a way, and we'll probably show this in a little bit, how to download different like PDFs and images and different types of your data. It seems like downloading the PDF isn't quite as intuitive as we thought it would be. Sometimes it will only show you a screenshot of what's on the screen, and if you can like scroll down to see more data points, it won't export that. So we're working on some workarounds, and we'll get you guys kind of like a tip sheet or another YouTube video to work through that one. There is also a way to download like your full data set so that you can see kind of the underlying data behind those. And we can walk through that today if that's helpful, and we'll put together a sheet for that as well, because there's a few different buttons that you have to click on in order to get all of your underlying data. And the final thing I had is a few people yesterday had tried to download the Tableau app on their phone to look at these reports on your phone. I don't think it's currently optimized for that like mobile platform view. It's optimized for a desktop or laptop view. So it's something we can look into in the future, but I did just want to point out, be careful about the security of the different devices that you're using, because we can access like PHI, case numbers, MRNs from these Tableau platforms. So make sure that your phone is secured through your organization. I know, for example, mine, since I have email on my phone, U of M automatically has some kind of security protocols on my phone so that it's more secure to access that kind of information. And I think that's all I had for the moment. I'll stop and see if there's any questions so far.
I'll just add to the last thing Allison said about the Tableau app, that if you want to use that, it's going to ask you for a URL, and you need to, it's reporting.arborresearch.org. Put that in for the URL, and then it'll bring up your login page. Okay. So I did want to talk a little bit about something Allison mentioned. We got a question yesterday about how to get case counts. And to be honest, that wasn't something that we had really thought all that much about for head injury. So I think from thinking back about what we talked about yesterday, this page that I'm showing here in Arbor Metrics was probably something people were using to see, how many head injury cases did you have? How many of those fell into eligible minor head injury? Then out of those, how many actually had CTs? And then out of those, how many were appropriate CTs? I can kind of show you a workaround to get that data in a pretty clumsy way, I think, in Arbor Research. But I was wanting to open up right now just to a question is if anyone who uses this kind of data can help me understand how you use it so we can better design, in the next version, we need to figure out what we're going to build for you guys. And so I think anything that you guys could do to help us understand that use case, it would be super helpful. So pause with that. Okay. Well, again, if this is something that people feel like they need or want, let me know, and we can try to figure out that kind of use case a little bit better. Okay. So I guess first of all, I see there's a question about the February, March missing data. Looks like Carrie. Yeah, so like Allison said, for February and March for chest x-ray, or not a chest x-ray, asthma, yes, chest x-ray and asthma. Basically everyone has 0 out of 0 in February and March, and that's obviously not right. So that you can't, basically we're trying to figure out why that's like that. I think what it comes down to is that it's pulling in all the data, all the cases that you abstracted in Arbor Metrics that we transferred over, but none of the ones that you have done in Arbor Research since March 15th. I mean, they exist, they're in MedicLink, but they're not getting transferred into Tableau for reasons that we don't exactly understand, but we are working on that and hopefully we'll get those soon. To our knowledge, that's the only missing data. So if there's other stuff that you guys think is not in there, please let us know and we can work on that too.
Andy, there's also a question about the physician scorecards. Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So thanks. So we do have a physician scorecard. It's probably not as good. It didn't get built in the training environment, but if you have your landing page open and you go up to the top here where it's, I don't know what the right word for this, like the slashed folder description thing is, but if you hit explore, in here, in this list, less pretty to look at list of folders, there is a physician scorecard that should exist. So we are working to get that added onto the actual landing page. So eventually, hopefully soon, there'll be a button right on the main page that'll take you to that and to the abstraction all initiatives report. But for now, you have to kind of clunkily go back into this folder setting to find it. Other questions?
Andy, I'm not sure if this is a question for everybody, but it's Michelle Nightfever. Does Tableau allow you to customize this at all? Like, so you can see the tabs a little better, things like that? Do you have any idea?
What do you mean by better? Like bigger?
Yeah,
or...
I'm just old, and I'm like looking at this. Always seems microscopic to me, like the tab titles and stuff, or it's just like so gray, that it's just hard to see. That's just a dumb question, but just wondering.
Probably. I don't really. So I think that the easiest way I would say to do it, I'm trying to look at something that actually has data. If you use Chrome, which I think a lot of people use now, if you just kind of go up to these 3 dots and just zoom it in, it gets bigger.
Okay.
So yeah, and actually the nice thing that Tableau does when you do that is that it makes all the makes everything bigger, but it still fits it to the page. So you lose a lot of the white space, but you at least can see stuff a little bit better, if that's helpful.
Oh, good. I hope others had that question, not just me.
Okay, no, that's great. So got a question of, can you demonstrate how to find the N in the scorecard? Meaning like the number of cases. I think we can't do this. Let me refer to the rest of the team. I think that's one of the limitations we've got right now.
I think that's one thing that we're working on. I think ideally, when we're looking at the physician scorecard, we would love it if you could hover over the percentage and it would give you the numerator and denominator. That's not something that's currently built in. If you want to find that, you have to go to your case list and then kind of look at the number that falls into the numerator and denominator for each individual physician, which we know is a lot of extra work right now. But if you did want it, that is one way that you could do that.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer at this point. And so, like Katie said, like if you go to the case list, you know, whatever date range you have set, it carries through to the different tabs. So, you know, one thing you can do is change these time frames. So if, you know, let's say, so I'll change this to P for P or 2021. So this is the most recent data. So our P for P years run from November to October. So there's 2 calendar years in there. So if you just wanted to see, you know, you don't want this day by day breakdown. Well, actually, let me show you 2 ways. So one, if you want to know cases by day, if you click on the month, hover over month and visit date and click the plus sign, then it expands out to show you the day of the actual month, year, month, and day that each case was. If you want it at a higher level, then if you hit the minus over year of visit date, then it just pulls out all of the information about months and days. And now you just have, here are your 2020 cases, and here's all your 2021 cases. Another thing I can potentially demonstrate real quick while I'm on this page is, like Allison was saying, that when you go to download this data, especially if you want it as a PDF, the view you choose is kind of, I don't know if finicky is the right word, but it matters basically which buttons you press and what it's going to end up looking like. So if you got this case list up, you want to download this as a PDF, just something you can have on your desktop or whatever, go to download, hit PDF, and then it's going to give you these choices. If you choose this view, it's literally going to just give you what you see on the page. But like, there's more. You can see there's this vertical scrolling. So if you choose this view, you're only going to get that. But if you choose specific sheets from this dashboard and then hit select all and then download it, I'll actually download here. Yeah. When you go to download it, you get like a much, you don't get just the stuff that was visible on your computer screen, you get the actual full set of data. So that's something that at least wasn't obvious to me when I started playing with it and was frustrating. So hopefully that's something that could be useful to other people too. Okay.
I think I was just playing around on my other screen with the physician scorecard, and there is a way where you can like download all of the data behind there. And I think that would help with like the N count that you were looking for, Stephanie. It's not exactly a pretty number, and like Carrie said, we're definitely working on adding, or maybe Andy said, working on something where you could hover over it and see the numerator, or the or denominator counts like that. Andy, I don't know, do you want to show maybe just the PE trend table, or even this, how you can export that like full data view?
Yeah, which one?
That works. Just like how we went to download data and how you could see like show more columns, that whole thing.
Yeah, let me do that off the abstractions. Actually, let me go to the head injury, because that kind of answers what Heather was talking about yesterday. So just kind of showing a way that you can get to some of the underlying data. So if you go into, so abstraction status. So this is not like, so this is kind of a non-pretty workaround to get to some of this data, but if you kind of click into your data table here and then go hit download and choose data, it'll bring up a little pop-up that shows the data that's in the table. If you click on full data and then show all columns, Now it's going to show you a lot more information about your cases. This is one fake case that's in here. But like if you wanted to know, kind of scroll over adult head injury denominator, no. So the reason that there was nothing in that table was that this only case that's actually exists here was excluded from the denominator. So this was a head injury case that was wasn't eligible for the measure. And then, you know, if you wanted to add up all those columns, you could do that. And we're actually still trying to figure out. I think a lot of these columns look different on each initiative, so it's different between head injury and PE and chest X-ray. Some of them, at least to me, kind of obvious what they mean. Some of them are not. They're, you know, this is where you're starting to dig into like the actual coded SQL base, you know, background of all this data. So definitely aware that there need to be easier ways to get to this information, but there is a way to get there. And I think we talked about yesterday, I'll put together a little video and just demonstrating how to do that. It's helpful to people. Okay, other questions, other things we can demonstrate?
Andy, do you want to show on our Medic website where the link is to open the Tableau reporting?
Oh yeah. Make my Zoom thing go away. This way. So if you go to our regular website, medicqi.org, down here at the bottom, there's this button that says New Arbor Research Tableau Reporting. Click on that. It'll take you to your login page, or reporting.arborresearch.org if that's, you know, want to memorize the web page itself. That'll do it too. What else can we show? Questions can we answer?
Andy, why don't we go through back where sometimes people don't have the data as the options because you have to click on the case and then it'll come back up?
Yeah, good idea. Okay, so this is a oddity of just the way this seems to work, is that if you want to download data, so you're on your landing page, click on PE, let's see, go to maybe your case list, and you go to download. Oftentimes when so this time it works, it's kind of unpredictable, but sometimes when you click on it, this data button will be grayed out and you won't be able to actually access it. No, but anyway, if ever you hit this download button and the data option is grayed out and it won't let you choose it, just click on a cell and unclick and then go in and it'll be there. No idea why. It's just how it works at this point. So maybe another thing we can talk about real quick is the different filters. So in the videos that I put together, I really almost exclusively used PE, but we do have some filters that you can choose on the right side for all the different initiatives. So head injury was one that we didn't have in the there's no data, so I'm not sure this is going to be that helpful. Or maybe are there no filters? There are no like measure specific filters in head injury. No, chest X-ray does. So just for instance, if you click into chest X-ray, you can filter by. So just as a reminder, all of our chest X-ray cases are asthma, bronchiolitis, and croup. There's no data in here, so nothing's going to happen. But if you wanted to not see, so if you only wanted to see the asthma cases, you could go and turn off the bronchiolitis and croup, and then you would only see asthma cases. So if that's something that you're interested in breaking down, you can get to that data a little bit too. I know for PE, there was a D-dimer filter as well. So if you want to know whether a D-dimer was collected and then whether it was positive or not, you can filter the data by that as well.
One thing I want to point out is that any filter that you apply, like if you're looking at your trend graph, for example, if you then go to your case list, that filter will still apply to that case list. So if you want to revert back to the original data, Andy, is there an easy way to do that, or should you exit out and like open it again?
I think so. Like, you mean like
if you had some filters selected and then you decided, oh, I don't want to look at those, I just want to look at the report.
Yep.
Like
so for in this scenario, so right now in PE, you've got your full age range, 18 to 125. I'm not really sure why it sets that as the upper bound. All D-dimers, all positive. So if you kind of say you moved your age up to, you want to know how the patients were 67 and above, you see that the data changed. Now I only want to know, only ones that had D-dimer positive. So there are some. so you get a different view of the data. And then kind of what I have found is that sometimes when I play with these things, I make so many changes that I don't even know what it started like, and I kind of feel like maybe I'm screwing everything up. So I just want to go back to the default. So if you want to do that, up at the top here, you can click View Original, and then just click down at the bottom, Original Default. Then it just takes you back to, it resets everything to the default settings. So if you ever find yourself in a position where you think you've kind of over customized, or you can't even remember where you started, then you just hit that button and you can go back.
Sorry, where was that button, Andy?
Right up at the top here, View Original.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So it looks like we got a question from Penny. Just went into the physician scorecard and lists every physician whose name may be in the medical record. That's interesting. So it definitely should just be the attending, right?
Yeah, Penny, it should be pulling just from the attending provider field that's in our patient file. So if there are others in there, I would expect that their denominator would be low to start with, but that's probably a data issue that we'll need to work with Jeff about. So if you want to shoot me a separate email, we can work on that together.
Yeah, and if other people see similar things, let us know. It definitely should just be pulling off the listed attending.
It is literally every physician that's probably in the medical record. It's a giant list of names.
Okay. We will work on that then. Okay. Other questions, other things that anyone else on the coordinating center team thinks that we should demo?
Can't think of anything else to demo, but obviously I think important thing to note here, guys, is we know other things are going to come up. We know that you guys haven't had a ton of time to kind of play around with things. So as questions arise, like feel free. We're kind of hoping to refer them to Zendesk so that we can kind of all take a look and kind of keep all those questions in one place. So feel free to ask anything that comes up in the future, but we're always here to help with these.
Relatedly, I know that we have narrative reports due next week, and we know that everybody's got a learning curve with the new platform. So don't sweat it if you can't find exactly the right number that you feel like you want to put in your narrative report at the top section. It's totally fine, no big deal. But do provide those regular activity updates, please, because we do review those. Although so far we've gotten some good feedback that folks are finding it easier to use. So hopefully that trend continues for others.
I just want to put in a plug too for Andy's training videos too. If you're, just looking at this for the first time, they're really helpful. So, to just get into the site and plug along and look with him, and poke along, that really will speed your learning curve here.
Couple other things, so I'm thinking of them. One, monthly reports. We are planning on having those to you guys, I'll say the first half of May. Elson and I are still figuring out, well, need to get all the data right. It's getting everything downloaded into the format that we send you the monthly report. So hoping we'll have those next week, but I think we'll have them the first half of May. So you should be looking for those soon, soonish. And then the other thing is, as you guys, just as kind of a general thing, as you guys play with this, we're hoping to, in the assuming that we can actually have the October collaborative meeting in person, spend a little time in that meeting getting some feedback from you guys on the reporting structure in general. Obviously if things just aren't working, let us know whenever, and if you have an idea, let us know whenever, but we want to take a little intentional time to make sure that this is optimized for you guys and you're getting the information that you need out of it. So I think, this is supposed to be for you to get the information you need and easily. So all ideas we're definitely open to those. Be thinking of ways that we can make your job easier, or get things that you want easier, I guess is probably still the best word.
I think one other thing I thought of, Andy, that might be helpful to show, if you can click over to that PE trend table, click.
Yep.
And then if you can select P for peer and then 2021 on the right-hand side.
Okay.
So something different from what was in Arbormetrics is now we have that grand total column up the right-hand side. And I think that will be helpful for you guys, just getting an understanding of where you stand like year to date on your performance compared to the P4P scorecard. So we do have it color coded as well. So if it's in orange, you weren't meeting it for that month. If it's in blue, then you were meeting it. And overall, for this one, we are meeting it. Obviously, it doesn't seem, oh yeah, this one has the diagnostic yield at 22%, which would be great. So, yeah.
Yeah, and another thing I think I talked about a little in the videos that I kind of going back to the point of being able to go back to your original view is that if you click on these numbers, it gives you these choices of keep only or exclude. I still have not exactly figured out why you would want to do that or what you would do with it. But if you choose exclude, like see February went away, and it was not obvious to me to figure out how to get it back. Like the plus, I'm sure there's a way, but I couldn't figure it out. So if you make something go away and can't figure out how to get it back, that's again where that going up to view original and double clicking on the original default view, will bring that data back for you. So I don't know. I don't know why you would, like I said, I can't figure out why you would exclude data off the table. But if for whatever reason, if you wanted to know, like, man, February went really bad, how would it have been if we just didn't have February? I guess you could do that. What else can we answer? Okay, so I'll let the awkward silence go a little longer than I normally would, but I think that's maybe an indication that we're out of questions. So again, thank you guys for all the patience with this, for the feedback, and please keep it coming. Like we feel like we've played with this a lot and have tried to click on everything, but I'm sure there are things that we haven't thought of or uses that we haven't thought of. So if you're trying to do something and it doesn't seem like it's working right, there's no bad question. Please let us know so we can look into it. I think that in another 6 months, maybe we'll feel like we're experts on this and know everything it can do, but that's definitely not now. So let us know if you find something that seems weird or could be better or should be better or whatever. So